It's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. Happy to be back with you again. I'm getting to read at a much nicer time of the day. It's only about 5:30. So we're going to continue reading on our book by Laura Ingalls Wilder, On the Banks of Plum Creek. Straw stack. And this looks like, to me, instead of flowers, like maybe wheat. So let's read it. When Mr. Nelson's harvesting was done, Pa had paid for Spot. He could do his own harvesting now. He sharpened the long, dangerous scythe that little girls must never touch. And he cut down the wheat in the small field beyond the stable. He bound it or tied it in bundles and stacked them. Then every morning he went to work on the level land across the creek. He cut the prairie grass and left it to dry in the sunshine. He raked it into piles with a wooden rake. He yoked, that means can put them together, Pete and Bright to the wagon, and he hauled hay and made 6 big stacks of it. Over there. At night, he was always too tired now to play the fiddle. But he was glad when the hay was stacked, and he could plow that stubble land, and that would be the wheat field. That would be great, and not so hard as trying to plow through tall grass. One morning at daylight, 3 strange men came with a threshing machine. They threshed Pa's stack of wheat. Laura heard the harsh machinery noises while she drove Spot through the dewy grass. And when the sun rose, chaff flew off golden in the wind. The threshing was done and the men went away with the machine before breakfast. Pa said he wished Hanson had sowed more wheat. But there's enough to make us some flour, he said. And the straw with what hay I've cut will feed the stock through the winter. Next year, he said, we'll have a crop of wheat that'll amount to something. When Laura and Mary went up on the prairie to play that morning, the first thing they saw was a beautiful golden straw stack. It was tall and shining bright in the sunshine. It smelled sweeter than hay. Laura's feet slid down the sliding, slippery straw, but she could climb faster than straw could slide. In a minute, she was high on the top of that stack. She looked across the willow tops and away beyond the creek at the far land. She could see the whole great round prairie. She was high up in the sky, almost as high as the birds, it seemed. Her arms waved and her feet bounced on the springy straw. She was almost flying way up in the windy sky. I'm flying, she called down to Mary. Mary climbed up to her. Jump, Laura said. They held hands and jumped round and round, higher and higher. The wind blew and their skirts flapped and their sunbonnets swung at the end of the sunbonnet strings around their necks. Higher, Laura sang, jumping. Suddenly, the straw slid under her. Over the edge of the stack she went, sitting in straw, sliding faster, bump. She landed at the bottom. Plump! Mary landed on her. They rolled and laughed in the crackling straw. Then they climbed the stack and slid down it again. They had never had so much fun. They climbed and slid until there was hardly any stack left in the middle of the loose heaps of straw. Then they were sober. Pa had made that straw stack, and now it was not at all as he had left it. Laura looked at Mary, and Mary looked at her. and they looked at what was left of the straw stack. Then Mary said she was going into the dugout, and Laura went quietly with her. They were very good helping Ma and playing nicely with Carrie until Pa came to dinner. When he came in, he looked straight at Laura, and Laura looked straight at the floor. "You girls mustn't slide down the straw stack anymore," Pa said. "I had to stop and pick up all that loose straw." "We won't, Pa," Laura said earnestly, and Mary said, "No, Pa, we won't." After dinner, Mary washed the dishes and Laura dried them. Then they put on their sunbonnets and went up to the path in the prairie. The straw stack was golden bright in the sunshine. "Laura, what are you doing?" said Mary. "I'm not doing anything," said Laura. "I'm hardly even touching it." "You come right away from there or I'll tell Ma," said Mary. "Pa didn't say I couldn't smell it," said Laura. She stood close to the golden stack and sniffed. Long, deep sniffs. The straw was warmed by the sun. It smelled better than the wheat kernels taste when you chew them. Laura buried her face in it, shutting her eyes and smelling deeper and deeper. She said. Mary came and smelled it and said, Laura looked up at the glistening, prickly golden stack. She had never seen the sky so blue as it was above that gold. She could not stay on the ground. She had to be high up into the blue sky. "Laura," Mary cried, "Pa said we mustn't." Laura was climbing. "He did not either," she contradicted. "He did not say we must not climb it. He said we must not slide down it. I'm only climbing." "You come straight down from there," said Mary. Laura was at the top of the stack. She looked down at Mary and said, like a very good girl, "I'm not going to slide down. Pa said not to." Nothing but the blue sky was higher than she was. See, that was prairie land, so they didn't really have much of hills and certainly no mountains. The wind was blowing. The green prairie was wide and far. Laura spread her arms and jumped, and the straw bounced her high. I'm flying, she sang. Mary climbed up too, and Mary began to fly too. They bounced until they could bounce no higher. Then they flopped flat on the sweet, warm straw. Bulges of straw rose up on both sides of Laura. She rolled into a bulge and it sank, but another one rolled up. I'm going to show you kind of what this looks like. She rode onto that bulge, and then she was rolling faster and faster, and she could not stop. "Laura!" Mary screamed. "Pa said," but Laura was rolling. Over and over, right down the straw stack, she rolled and thumped in the straw on the ground. She jumped up and climbed the straw stack again as fast as she could. She flopped and began to roll again. "Come on, Mary," she shouted. "Pa didn't say we can't roll." Mary stayed on top of the stack and argued. "I know Pa said we can't roll, but..." "Well then," Laura rolled down again. "Come on," she said. "It's lots of fun." "Well, but I..." said Mary. Then she came rolling down too. It was great fun. It was more fun than sliding. They climbed and rolled and climbed and rolled, laughing harder and harder all the time. More and more straw rolled down with them. They waded in it and rolled each other in it and climbed and rolled down again till there was hardly anything left to climb. Then they brushed off every bit of straw off their dresses. They picked up every bit of straw out of their hair, and they went quietly into the dugout. When Pa came from the hayfield that night, Mary was busy setting the table for supper. Laura was behind the door, busy with a box of paper dolls. "Laura," Pa said dreadfully, "come here." Slowly, Laura went out from behind the door. "Come here," said Pa, "right over here by Mary." He sat down and he stood them before him, side by side. But it was Laura that he looked at. He said sternly, "You girls have been sliding down the straw stack again." "No, no, Pa," said Laura. "Mary," said Pa, "did you slide down the straw stack?" "No, Pa," Mary said. "Laura!" Pa's voice was terrible. "Tell me again, did you slide down the straw stack?" "No, Pa," Laura answered again. She looked straight into Pa's shocked eyes. She did not know why he looked like that. "Laura," Pa said. "We did not slide, Pa," Laura explained, "but we did roll down it." Pa got up quickly and went out the door and stood looking out. His back quivered. Laura and Mary did not know what to think. When Pa turned around, his face was stern, but his eyes were twinkling. "All right, Laura," he said. "But now I want you girls to stay away from the straw stack. Pete and Bright and Spot will have nothing but hay and straw to eat this winter. They need every bite of it. You don't want them to go hungry, do you?" "Oh, no, Pa," they said. "Well, if that straw is to be fit to feed them, it must stay stacked. Do you understand?" "Yes, Pa," said Laura and Mary. That was the end of their playing on the straw stack. That was another very short chapter, but that's okay. It was a good one. Sometimes we don't want to disobey. We want to do something so badly that we think up excuses to make it where we're not really going to get in trouble. And that's not a very good thing to do. It's kind of like a lie. Even though you might not think it's a lie, it's telling somebody something even though you know you did wrong. So let's try really hard not to do that. My dad always taught me that if I told the truth, if I'd done something wrong and I told the truth, I might get in trouble and I might not. But if I lied when I did something wrong to try to keep from being in trouble, I would be in double trouble. Nobody wants to be in double trouble. Besides, it hurts God's heart. The Bible says that God cannot lie, and we're his children. So we don't want to lie either. Well, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I want to pray blessings on you and yours, in your house and out of your house, in the day and in the night. Whatever you do, keep dreaming. All right, I'll be reading back to you with you again tomorrow. Good night and God bless.